Today I wanted to show one of the methods I've used, and I've used it pretty successfully, for touching up mistakes in the paint, sand throughs, chips, anything that along the way you're not happy with. Now, there's always alternative ways to do this. There's a lot of ways. Every painter has his own private little way of doing touch-ups, fixing scratches. To be honest, in the old days of lacquer, when you chip the paint, the guy would come along with enamel and paint a bug over the chip. Well, we don't do that anymore. We fix it. I posted the bubble that was on the FZR. That repair is absolutely perfect. There's some good information on this video. I hope you enjoy. Now, this promises to be a really productive day. The weather is really cold now, but it's going to warm up this afternoon. We already got our windscreen on. Did our photo shoot yesterday. Took all the parts off the back of the bike. Got them painted. This is all in one day. We had a busy day yesterday. And today, they're up by a heating vent. They're going to sit there for 4 hours. I have errands to do with Karen. When I come back, they'll be ready to buff out. I was real happy yesterday to get some photos put down by the computer, and it's already given me some ideas on future things I'd like to do. So far, all the little things we've done to the bike have worked out well, and if we get the tail sections put back on, we can do another photo shoot with the whole tail section painted. Every time we paint something blue, I like the bike better than when it was flat black. And once the parts are all buffed out, it'll be a cinch putting it all back together. And one thing nice about the MT-09, it's relatively easy to work on. I've done the work that I've done, it's all been pretty straightforward. I've tried to document it for people that want to do similar work or have an MT-09. Every one of these bikes, I've done some work on, and I've passed on the information that I've learned. And even in the case of the FZR, 900 hours, I've had that down to the studs, and I've got every bit of it out on video. So I just have to see what Karen has planned. I think she wants to do her errands early, and that's great. I give our parts a little bit more time up by the heating vent. We've been experimenting with forced drying paint, something I haven't done in my whole career, but we're working on it now. And the objective is, anything we learn, we'll pass on, but now it's time to go. And the paint will be drying up by a heating vent while we're out doing errands. Look at this, there's a flying saucer. What is it, a flying garbage bag? I don't know what that is. Like a flying garbage bag. So we have flying saucer garbage bags today while we're out doing errands. But knowing that that paint is drying, maybe the flying saucers will make it dry quicker. Well, the errands are schmerrands, and we're all set to get back to the house. Usually, in the past, it's been 4 hours. 4 hours, and that paint is hard. But we'll find out. It won't be long, and all the snow will be melted, because it's supposed to go up over freezing today. I'll be so happy. So, some little related news. It looks like two things. We don't have that much ice on the pond here. That's very nice. But here's good news. I came out last night, and this electronic thing, we have two of them now to keep the herons away, and it was beeping, you know, doing its little thing with a little red light. And since we've installed those, we have not seen one heron. So maybe that's an answer. These poor guys have been so hungry lately. I open a window to feed them. Half of them, they almost fly into the house. Anyway, they are hungry birds today. And I'm one cup of coffee away from getting ready to go to work. I'm always one cup of coffee away. Hey guys, income tax time is coming. I'm going to take you guys off my income tax. They are hungry this morning. Wow. Now, getting back down to the shop and ready to get some work done. Let's see how these parts are drying up. You never really know. Unless they're up by a heating vent, yeah, I've got to let them sit for another, well, it's not 4 hours yet, but I know 4 hours was the magic number in the past, but, well, we'll see. The heat is kicking on. It's still plenty cold out. We'll be patient right now. Whoa! I think they're ready to buff. Now, it really wasn't super cold last night like it was the first time. It looks like, and it seems like, and I'm not sure this is 100% true, it seems like no matter what you do, the first couple hours in cold, it just lets it drift out. But as soon as you put it, it doesn't seem to matter if it's overnight or you let it dry the next day. As soon as you put it up by the heating vent, 4 hours up by that heating vent, and who knows what the magic temperature is. And this is ready to sand. So I'm going to get up some soapy water, get out some 2000 grit paper, and get busy, because I know nobody's coming to do it for me. Now, what I think, after looking at this closely, of course, there's the usual dust and orange peel and everything that comes from painting without a spray booth, but it wouldn't matter. We're going to take care of it anyway. But after analyzing this part, the part I'm going to see is this part here, this part around the screen. I'm going to see down the bottom, not so much. You do see it, but not so much. And maybe down under here. So it looks like there's almost nothing on here I could use a buffer on. It's going to all be by hand. And so this is going to be one of these things of test my patience. And maybe have to make a tool to go in there. I don't know. We're going to do it all. Well, it's what the parts we're going to see. I want to have at least flat sanded 2000 grit. This is the most important part you see back here. So up right at the back. So if we get started on this, again, soapy water, couple of drops of Dawn, and it's just going to be a labor of love today, sanding this and buffing it. The soap is not really important. This is like Dawn. It's the Aldi brand of Dawn. Works just as good. What you do need, though, the idea of the water is it's a carrier. So as you're grinding the dust away, as opposed to dry sanding, it's working its way into the water, and the water floats it away. That's the technology anyway. And if you ever look at the end of sanding, and I dump the water in the sink, there's always the residue from the paint that you sanded off. It's in the water and it sinks to the bottom. And the method I've used and had real good results with is 2000 grit. 2000 grit in DASA. There's a lot of other choices you have. This works pretty well for me, and you can buy it off the internet. Now basically I know I have to do this whole part by hand. It's just too small, too many mountaintops. It's the mountaintops I have to avoid. Of course, I don't want to sand through. So I can pick one little spot at a time, and no, I can't go all around. I got to get one spot done and then move on to the next spot. Like I'm doing a checkerboard. Pick one little square at a time. Try to get it flat, get rid of all the little dust or any little imperfections. Doesn't look like there's been any fish eyes in the parts lately, so I guess we're lucky. That's, I think, more luck than skill, to be honest. But getting this done and just taking my time, getting in all the little nooks and crannies, it's going to have to be one step at a time. And I think I'm probably even going to have to buff the whole part by hand too. As well, we're going to find out. But I just wanted to see how quick. See, what you can tell, if the paint is not ready, what happens is the sandpaper feels like it's dragging. When the sandpaper glides across, you're shaving off all that paint residue. And in this case, well, let's just show it in real time. That's what we always like to do. It looks like maybe we're right on the cusp of being able to do it, but you can see there's all little corners and edges. This is going to be a true labor of love to get that done. Now, sanding a part like this with this many sharp edges and corners and mountaintops, very, very difficult part, and it's almost impossible without going through in some spots. But what the trick is to try to minimize the amount of spots you go through and then touch them up appropriately. Now, this was really a lot of work getting this done, but you can see here's the problem I've had, and these little sharp edges that I've already sanded through because they're mountaintops. So this gives me a good chance to show how I would handle this anyway. Now, in the past, and I've been successful at this, I really shouldn't say I've not been successful. I've been able to just run a touch-up brush and just take an airbrush kind of clear, but I don't want to do that to this part because I have so many of these little high spots. And the reason this is this part came out of the mold. It was never painted. So it has sharp little razor edges all over it, but it doesn't have them now because I've sanded all the parts you're going to see pretty well. So my whole objective here, I'll clean the part with some M600, and I'm going to paint the whole part again. I have just sprayed a whole part, but here's the trick. Where we've gone through, I'm going to just go, let that sit for a few minutes, and then paint the part. Go over the whole part. Now, because it's already painted, it'll take the slightest amount of paint. But I found that if you don't do that, sometimes you can see where you, yeah, you know, now some people can't even see that. You know, I can, so I'm very fussy about it. But the next step on this is to clean the whole part with Sikkens M600 and get it ready. Now, there's a general rule to when you go through on a part. This is Sikkens M600. The general rule is, yeah, you can fudge things, and even after you put the bike together, sometimes there's a little paint chip, you can deal with it. And to a certain degree, I've been successful at doing that. But this part, and since we're in the middle of the winter, it's freezing cold out there, adding 1 day to this project isn't going to mean anything. You know, it's that if that 1 day is never going to cost me a riding day. And it'll give me 1 more day to think about the other things like the logo and things that I want to work on. And having that extra coat of paint on this, when I put the bike together for the final time and put this part out on there, I'll know I've got rid of those high spots. Because what would typically happen as time goes by, from wiping a bike off, you'd wipe all the clear off. This mountaintop as an example, or the edge here. Now we're going to have extra paint on there. So what I'm going to do, and the wind is howling 40 miles an hour out there, but I'm going to touch this up, let it dry a few minutes, and then come back and spray on a coat and cover the whole part, and then let it dry. Now, this is the Chromax paint and Chromax thinner, 50/50, and our Harbor Freight gun. But the big thing here is get the paint on dry. Don't put a big wet drippy coat on. Just enough, because the clear is going to bury any touch-up that you have. Now, the idea of doing these selected spots so you have extra paint, 2 or even 3 extra coats of paint on the area that was a mountaintop and needs a touch-up. So step 1 is just the spots that I've gone through. I'll put this up by a heating vent, let that sit for 5 minutes or so, and then paint the whole part. And that extra little paint on the spots that you've gone through is the magic bullet to keep it from happening the next time you sand it out. Is the best way to keep a touch-up from coming through a second time. Now, while that touch-up paint is drying, I guess I'll go do the other part, wet sand the other part. Probably go through the same amount of time, but basically, this is the best way I know of when you want the part perfect. If you want to do little brush touch-ups, but no, I'll just put, when this is done, this will be dry, it won't matter how long. We'll have the other part done, and I'll mix up some clear and put another 1 coat of clear over everything. And it'll really lay down nice because we've already sanded this with 2000 grit. It should look pretty much like this when we're done, once we have the clear on. And knowing how to do these little touch-ups, the first time this ever happened to me and I hit a high spot or a mountaintop, yeah, you get very disappointed and frustrated. But once you have that final coat of clear on, what's happened now, you've already knocked that mountaintop down, and I've put extra paint on these vulnerable high spots. So when we're done, that part should buff out beautifully and be perfect. And all the paint on this bike, even the stock paint that came from Yamaha, I don't know if you ever seen an MT-09, you can't feel that. They have buried that in clear, buffed it out beautifully. We've buffed out all the parts we've made, all the parts we've added to it. I don't want to compromise anything now. I want it, and that windshield came out just great. Look at the reflection in that windshield. To me, that windshield just makes the bike look finished. I think on every one of these bikes, every one of these restorations that I've done, somewhere in there I've sanded through, just like I did today. This gives me a good opportunity to share my method of fixing it. Now, I don't think this part will be any different. It's got a lot of orange peel on it, as we were painting in some really cold weather the other day. And there's a lot of dust in the paint. You can see some of the dust and stuff. Get it touched up so they're both in touch-up mode, and then we'll mix them clear. That is a general rule that I've found in a lot of things I do, and painting is one of them. The second part always goes a little bit faster, not a lot, but because you kind of have your rhythm and you kind of have your, I don't know what, but whatever, second part really does go quick. So we've stacked the deck that these touch-ups will be perfect. No surprise at all. These same high spots and is just mountaintops that I've been able to go through. But this is the whole reason I wanted to show how to touch these parts up. Because no matter what you do, and no matter how careful you are, at some point in time, if you paint enough stuff, you're going to go through a hard edge or a mountaintop. These are all mountaintops. And this little technique that I use to touch them up, and again, I'm going to spray that, anything that I've gone through, let it sit, and come back and put a coat on the whole part. This way you've got double the amount of paint over the spots you know are mountaintops, so you kind of stack the deck in your favor that you're not going to go through those parts when a bike's all assembled and you're wiping it off or waxing it or whatever. So it's good technology, and it works pretty well for me. So anytime you have a part, and I call this a porcupine part, a lot of points and edges, and if you're sanding out a flat part, a frying pan, well, a lot less chance you're going to go through. But unfortunately, especially modern sport bikes, modern motorcycles, a lot of points and angles, and these, some people call this the origami styling. Well, whatever it is, it's just very difficult when it comes time to paint like this. You have a lot of edges. Anyway, the M600, going to give this a final wipe, tack rag it down, and get out there and get this painted. Now I thought because the wind was blowing early today, maybe we'd catch a break and the wind would be a little bit less in the afternoon. Didn't happen. And the wind was blowing all day. It was blowing in various directions. And it's just a lot easier and more comfortable, especially when you're doing this kind of... Okay, the parts should be dry by now. I always like to check. You ready for the clear? Well, they look like they dried up nicely. All the touch-ups are done. We're ready for the final clear. And this is the clear we've been using. And this is Joe Padula, and thank you for donating this, leftover from the Ducati project. These are the numbers, and from what I understand, you can buy this directly off the internet, have it shipped to your house. 4-to-1 mix, and we're ready to put clear on those parts. Now I'm putting on the clear super, super thin, like an airbrush would, going back and forth, over and over, to try to lay out a really, really beautiful coat of clear. So it'll minimize the amount of defects I have, to minimize the amount of mountaintops and stuff I have in the final coat when I go to buff this part out. And that technique, today with the wind blowing, worked pretty good. And despite the wind and having to move around, and gee, the wind was blowing in every direction possible, I still managed to get a nice coat of clear on there. I was real happy. By the end of this day, I was happy. I was thrilled. Well, out in the sunlight, you can get a little view now. Because we've sanded this with the 2000 grit, that last coat, buffing it out in the next day or two is going to be just a piece of cake. We've already done the hard work. Oh, that's beautiful, and we've used up a really good day. And I hope I've been able to show the way I've touched up things. Now, this had flaws in it that would have been a problem if we just buffed it out and tried to touch it up with a brush. And now the difference is it'll be perfect. Well, you really never know how a day is going to play out, but I started out thinking I was just going to be able to buff these parts out. And I hope I've been able to show how I made these little corrections to the paintwork. And when we go to buff this out, if for instance you were to buff through then, you don't have this choice. Then you gotta, and if we do buff through, we'll try to show that on video too. But I think that worked out pretty good. But who am I to say? Anyway, I can't wait, because in the next day or two we'll be able to put these parts back on the bike, and this should just be another chance to get some photo ops done and then look at what else I want to do on this before I do the wheels. I wanted to end this video with some great A-Team memories. Memories I've been lucky enough to have on video, and a great time to share them. We stopped for hot dogs first, and then Chris insisted. She insisted we come up here for ice cream. Yeah, right. She said, without ice cream, it's not a real ride. She's right, too.
Why is that my favorite?
This cow actually loves Jose. He looks a lot like Jose, doesn't he? Jose the cow. What's the cow's name? Adora Bell. Now I'm having the economy. I'm having the low-calorie waffle cone with a gallon of ice cream in it. He's having a Jose cone. And this is a Luciano Amati. Oh my God. It is good. Oh, it's worth riding 200 miles up here, isn't it? Just hard to believe it's such a nice place in the world. A great place to ride motorcycles, but what's more important, a great place to eat ice cream with Bob. Bob ate a giant ice cream cone before.
Hi, Wendy.
Hello. It is really nice today. We really lucked out today. Look who shows up at the ice cream place. Wow, look who shows up at the ice cream place.
About time,
Would
man.
you like valet parking,
Right?
sir?
Yes, please.
Look at the line for ice cream. I hope you're not hungry. Hope you're not
Hi, how
hungry.
are you? What's up, Jose?
What's up? Hey. These are all memories from 2013. Now, my videos go back a lot further than this, but the memories now, Bob Navola, who appeared on the video. Bob, we miss you, the late Bob Navola, of course. And some of the people on these videos have passed away. Some are not with us anymore. Some of them have gone on to bigger and better things. But boy, when we had the A-Team, we ate a lot of ice cream. We wore out a lot of tires, and we had a lot of fun. And the fact that I have a lot of it captured on video and posted on YouTube, actually now it's over 2,400 videos. Great memories. And it's not only the memory of the friends and the ice cream, the bikes we all shared, the bikes we took on rides together, the people we went on rides. Those days of the A-Team to me are just a priceless thing. And again, this is 2013. Can you imagine how the memories to me, even the backyard here, we hadn't done certain work on the backyard yet. And the fact that this bike, I still have it in my collection as the yellow FZR, total restoration. Holy mackerel, 900 hours. But just having the memories of how the bike used to be and the days of the Ferrari. It was a wonderful time to be alive, a wonderful time to have these memories. And I am so glad I have the video and the photos of these times. I probably would remember them, but whenever I go back in my channel and look at some of these old videos of, God, we miss you, Bob Navola. If I could only put it in words, I can't. But I know looking at the videos reminds me of the great times we had. And one of the best videos on my whole channel is Bob Navola's birthday party. I bet I've watched it 20 times already. Anyway, I hope you did get some good information and enjoyed the video. And thanks so much for watching. We post every day, and we'll see you tomorrow.